What is up, guys? Welcome to a brand new tier list video, and this one should be a lot of fun. This is one that I've been toying around with doing for quite a while, and then I sat down today, I was like, what video do I want to make? You know what? It's time to pull the trigger on that bitch. We're going to be ranking some classic horror movie posters. Now, full disclosure, I did not make this tier list entirely on my own. There was actually already one on here that somebody else had created that had the vast majority of these posters already populated. So all I did was add about 50 more that I felt were missing. I retitled all of the tiers myself. So this is customized to be mine, but just to give credit where credit is due, I did not do all the legwork for this one. And going along with that, normally I put the link down below, and I will do that just so you can use the baseline one that I started with. But since I've customized and added things to this, I don't believe Tier Maker saves this as a template of my own. So you guys probably won't be able to do this exact same tier list without adding all of these manually yourself. But the link will be in the video description if you want to do your own. Now, the art of the movie poster, not just horror, but movie poster in general, is kind of a little bit of a lost art form. We still get some awesome ones. We still get some cool ones. It's still a piece of the movie marketing machine, but nowadays, predominantly movies are marketed through social media, viral videos, and things like that. Not quite as much by walking through a video store, of course, and seeing the box art, or even walking through a theater and seeing some of the coming soon or now showing posters. But back in the day, back in, of course, the 70s and the 80s, but even in the era that I grew up in, the 90s, movie posters and movie box art was the way that you decided what movie to check out. You would walk through the aisles of Blockbuster, Family Video, or Hollywood Video, especially in horror fandom. You would walk through the horror section, and you would make your selection that night based off of which cover looked the most badass. All of us know and have a core memory from back in the day where we knew nothing about a movie, no idea who made it, who was in it, what the fucking thing was about, but that box art is badass. We are spending our money and checking this thing out tonight. Like, I have core memories of a couple of movies I never even watched, but every time I walked through that aisle, I was like, that's a badass poster. So as you could assume, I'm just going to be ranking all of these posters, and we've got a lot of them. We've got like 130 of them here, just based off of how well I think they, one, advertise the movie, and two, how badass they are. Like, how awesome of an artwork is this? Is it worthy of throwing on the wall, or is this something where you look at it and go, yeah, if this didn't have some kind of an iconic word of mouth behind it, I would not select this movie based on this artwork. And the 5 tiers that we're going to be ranking these movies off of are as follows. Starting from the bottom, we've got ink smudge. These are the ones that are the worst, the ones I'm not impressed with at all. Then right above that, you've got rough draft. These are ones that have a little bit more to offer, but certainly not the best. Then you have cult favorite right there in the middles, movie posters that are pretty good, but not necessarily the most iconic of the bunch. Then you've got killer one sheet. These are for all the ones that are pretty damn good that most of us will recognize. And then the top tier are framed on the wall. These are the ones that absolutely wallpaper crazy movie fan places like my studio. And with all that said, let's crack this bitch open and start off with all of these classic movie posters. Now, there are a ton of them here, many of which I said I've added, but quite a few of them were already here. And I believe for the most part, I've looked through, and these are all the original artwork. These are not things that were added decades later or somebody did like a custom artwork for. These are the original one sheets for the most part, and mostly in alphabetical order. So we're going to kick off with 28 Days Later, one of my favorite undead, infected movies, whatever you want to call it. People get all semantics about it. But 28 Days Later's poster is pretty fucking awesome. It's not necessarily like top tier for me, so I am going to stick it in killer one sheet, but that poster right there is pretty awesome. Just showing a lone guy who's Cillian Murphy's character walking in empty London with the infected eyeballs and the biohazard sign. I mean, what else do you need? That is a classic poster right there. Talking about classics, we've got Alien here, and to me, this one is a framed on the wall. There's a lot of posters that you're going to see here where they are absolutely minimalist in the best way. Some of them aren't quite as successful as Alien, but Alien is just a classic minimalist poster where you have the title, you have an egg being cracked open with a little bit of that green hue there, and that is all you need to know. You know, when you're in space, nobody can hear you scream, so that one of my favorites. I did include a couple of remakes from the 2000s era. And this is one that I thought was cool to bring in here. We got Amityville Horror. This is the Ryan Reynolds one. And I'm going to stick this one in cult favorite. This one is a solid poster. Not necessarily one that's like one of the best ever. I didn't think even the original Amityville Horror was anything to write home about, so I didn't throw that one on here. We already had enough. But that one was a solid poster, and I think it's got like a bit of a foreboding nature to just like the shadow or like the glow that is showing Ryan Reynolds' character holding the axe. So pretty solid one. One that I did want to include, though, so I do have a few to throw at the bottom here, is Amityville 3D. And pretty much like almost any horror movie that is really just marketing 3D, it's a pretty shit poster. So this one is going to be our first addition into Ink Smudge. It's just a generic picture of the Amityville house and some like weird, like almost like the gate finger, or three-fingered hand just like randomly thrown on there just to show this movie's in 3D. I've never actually seen the film. I guarantee it's probably not well regarded, but not a good poster. Now we've got An American Werewolf in London, and this is for many people the best werewolf film of all time. Not one of the best posters of all time, though. So this one, to me, I'm actually going to stick in rough draft. It's not like a bad poster, but it's just showing two dudes with a full moon. Like, that is not the type of thing that if I didn't know the legacy of American Werewolf in London, that would make me purchase this movie or rent it. So to me, that is a minimalist poster in not the most interesting way. Like there's not even, take the title away, there's not even really much of werewolf imagery there. So yeah, that one, I mean, it's not a bad one, but pretty basic. As Above, So Below. I've actually never seen this film, but that is a pretty cool poster. So it looks like the Eiffel Tower that is upside down. I believe this is like catacombs that are underneath Paris or something. Again, I haven't seen the film. I'm going to stick this one in cult favorite. It's a solid one. Not really a movie that I hear too much about, so it was kind of a random one that I guess the person that created this threw on there, but the poster art is pretty solid, so I'll throw that on there. Autopsy of Jane Doe. This is another one that I actually think is pretty solid. We're going to stick it in cult favorite. A movie that I enjoy. I'm not as crazy about it as everybody else seems to be, but that is, again, a minimalist poster that gets the point across. It is a dead body of a Jane Doe, and it's upside down just to kind of disorient you, so not a whole lot in there, but it works. AVP, this one was another one that was kind of randomly thrown in here, especially since there was no Predator posters, but I think for most of us, that's more of an action sci-fi franchise anyway. But AVP as a poster, I actually am going to throw up in Killer One Sheet. Say what you will about the movie, I actually enjoy the first one for what it is. I wish it was rated R, but that is an awesome poster. You know, that is one where you have two icons that are facing off, and oddly enough, Freddy vs. Jason was not on here, and I should have added that. Yeah, can't forgive myself for that one. Sorry, guys. Why is AVP on here and not Freddy vs. Jason? Random person who made this tier list. What is wrong with you? AVP, yeah, nothing else to say. It gets the point across. You got an alien up in the one corner. You got the Predator down here looking like a badass. They're going to fight each other. I always liked this cover. Thought it was pretty cool. The Babadook. This one I'm going to throw into cult favorite. I like the fact that it's mostly artistic, where you have kind of the kids drawing aesthetic of the Babadook's like outline, like his silhouette, and then you have the open door in the middle with the mom. It's more creative, I think, than the other ones in cult favorite, but there's not really anything that tells me any indication of what the movie actually is. Like, it just kind of feels like kind of a random kids drawing. So I'm going to stick it in cult favorite. It's not quite awesome enough for me to put it higher than that. Now we have The Babysitter, another one that felt a little bit random in here, but this is a movie that I really do enjoy, and I do like the 80s aesthetic to it. You know what it reminds me of, actually? I never watched this, but my best friend, his sister had all these VHS tapes, and I remember always seeing them when we were looking for a movie. That old cartoon Jam. That's what this reminds me of. But The Babysitter, I'm going to throw up into cult favorite. It's a solid poster. All it is just like a really neon hot pink illustration of Samara weaving, which, I mean, that's frame worthy of putting on the wall for most of us, right? But yeah, solid one. Barbarian. This actually is not my favorite poster of Barbarian, but this is the one that was widely released. This one, I'm going to stick it in rough draft, mostly because it's another minimalist poster. It's just a red background with a door being opened down into a staircase and a woman standing there in the middle, which really doesn't tell you anything other than they're probably going to go down a staircase and see some weird shit. But there is another poster for Barbarian that came later that was more it was more of like a collector's item probably, where it's the house at the top and then it's actually the font of Barbarian that's like almost like a tunnel going down, and then it shows the main character with a flashlight in the end. That is a much better poster, but not the one that they chose to do for the wide release. So Barbarian's going into rough draft. Black Christmas. This is one that I'm going to stick it up and framed on the wall. I think this is such a classic image, not just from the movie. It is the most iconic image from the movie, I would say, arguably. But I just love the color and the classic, like, very old school look that this poster has, where it literally looks like a Christmas card. It looks like a Christmas card with somebody who has been suffocated with a plastic bag as the main focal point here. So I think this one, it totally gets across the tone and the idea of the movie in a way that without like showing a serial killer there. So I love the Black Christmas poster. And I think this must have been in foreign countries. It was actually called Silent Night, Evil Night, I believe. And so there was a lot of variants of this poster with that title on there, which to a certain degree, if Silent Night, Deadly Night wasn't so iconic, I almost like that title a little bit better. Silent Night, Evil Night, but Black Christmas works too. Blair Witch. So this Blair Witch here is actually for the, like, I guess you could call it sequel, reboot, the third one. It's okay. I'm going to say rough draft. All it does is have the title, and it has the classic little, stick figure image on there. It gets the point across for a pre-established franchise, but you look at that and it's like, okay, I mean, it's another Blair Witch movie. Then you have Blair Witch 2, which, not just because it is one of the worst films that's been made, but also not a very good poster. I'm going to stick it into ink smudge. I mean, it's just an abstract dude's face. Like, it's a weird image. It's a weird image to advertise that film too. If you've seen it, it just doesn't really get the point across. It's just like, hey, it's another Blair Witch film. And then you walk into it and go, oh my God. The Blair Witch Project, a movie that I am notoriously not too much of a fan of. But for that poster, I actually think it is a really good one sheet. So I'm going to stick it up in the killer one sheet. The woods up at the top, and just having the black and white, the girl's face at the bottom. I mean, I think it gets across the filmmaking style of the found footage. It tells you it's going to be about a couple of teenagers in the woods. I mean, it perfectly advertises the film in an image that's pretty iconic. I mean, that's like the most iconic image, the specific shot from the movie, aside from the actual ending. That's all you see, is that scene where the girl's sitting there with the weird angle when she's starting to cry and say, oh, I'm so scared. So pretty solid poster. Now we have The Blob, and this is for the one that was the Chuck Russell movie, the remake from the 80s. And I think this one's okay. I'm going to stick it into cult favorite. Not exactly a classic for me, where, you have the Blob as a monster. I think there's probably some variants out there that are actual, like, custom artwork that are much cooler. This just looks like somebody floating around in pink slime. So does it get the point across? Yeah, I guess. But it really doesn't capture the tone of that movie and how gnarly it is. So that one is just okay to me. Cabin in the Woods. This one is another one that's going to go up into killer one sheet. This is a very simple poster where it gets across a lot of things about the movie. Of course, that it's a cabin in the woods, but it also lets you know there's some kind of a puzzle box. There's some kind of a game going on with this. And that is a film that when it came out, like, a lot of people walked into it just expecting like a basic slasher film. And right from the opening sequence, you're like, oh, this is not what I expected at all, in the best way. So great movie, great poster. Cabin Fever. Not a movie that I am overly crazy about. It's one that I do like a lot of it, but to me the humor kind of kills it a bit. But that is a badass poster. So this is one that I would actually frame and put on my wall. Like, this is in that pantheon of like Blair Witch Project and things like that, where it's just kind of giving you cabin in the woods aesthetic, but the way that it's designed, where the trees are made to look like the cavities of a skull, is very creative while being very simple and subtle. So I like that one a lot. Candyman. This one, this is an interesting one because I think that this image is really cool. Enough for me to stick it up into killer one sheet. But it's also, like, it evokes the tone of the movie, but almost in a way where it takes away from the coolness of the poster, if that makes any sense. Because Candyman, the original one anyway, is very much like a gothic love story that's wrapped up in a 90s slasher. It's one of the best 90s horror films ever. But, you know, you have the honeybee there, you have the silhouette of Candyman, and you have the female's eye. And that poster evokes a very romantic nature. So it's a very accurate poster to kind of give you an idea what you're in store for, but it would almost be cooler to just lean into the more horror elements of Candyman more than the romance. So I don't know. I might get a little bit of a pushback from you guys in the comments on that one that really think that that's the way to go with Candyman. But yeah, it's a cool poster, but maybe just the darker sensibilities that of artwork that I like. I would prefer a darker poster. Now we have Carrie, and this one is a very vintage looking one, and I'm going to throw it into cult favorite. To be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of the Carrie story or any of the movies, even the Brian De Palma one. And I'm not going to let that color where I put these posters for any of these movies, by the way. You know, if I love the movie, it doesn't mean it's automatically going to go on top and vice versa. But Carrie, this poster specifically, I mean, it just shows the prom queen, and then it shows her, you know, I don't even know if you can really tell she's covered in blood, but just painted in red and looking very ominous. So it's a very old school vintage style poster, which a lot of people are really into vintage. They like that type of artwork much more than anything that is more modern or more, you know, graphically driven. For me, it's not an image that would make me want to buy that movie or rent that film, but gets the point across. So we'll throw it in the middle. Children of the Corn. So to prove the point of how much I like the movie, not dictating where the poster is going to go, I actually think that this is a pretty awesome one. We're going to stick it up into Killer One Sheet. I love that image of just the hand with the scythe, with the corn behind them. Like, it doesn't really tell you anything about the plot other than this is going to take place somewhere with a cornfield and motherfuckers are going to get stabbed. That is a rough franchise. That is probably the roughest franchise that I have tried to get through. And I don't even think the first film, which most people would say is easily the best of them, is even that great. But that poster is really cool. Now we got my beloved Chucky, of which I only, there was only the original Child's Play on here. I threw in the second one because I think that's the best one. We'll talk about that one next. But this is a very unique poster for the Child's Play franchise because Chucky's not front and center. Of course, his eyes are there, but looking at the poster, you really can't tell what that is. I like this one. I'm going to throw it in a cult favorite. I do think it's a cool image, you know, having the woman falling to her death from that building, having the lightning in there for the imagery of how he comes back with the voodoo and everything that happens in the opening of the film. And then Chucky's eyes, like, it's cool. It's iconic to a certain extent for me because I love that movie and that franchise. But something about having Chucky front and center is what I want when I see a Child's Play poster. And to that point, you have Child's Play 2 here, and this one, not just because I adore the film, but this one is going on a frame on the wall because I think that is just the coolest image of Chucky, like promotional image that has ever been released. Having him getting ready to take out Jack in the Box, the whole "Sorry Jack, Chucky's back" tagline on there. This is actually the picture that I got Brad Dourif to sign, and was the handler said this is the one that he likes to sign the most because he actually like used a marker and added blood to the scissors and stuff. So that poster has a very special place in my heart, but I also just think it's the best Chucky poster. So earns its spot at the top for me. Now we've got Christine. I wanted to throw in a couple of John Carpenter movies in here, aside from the obvious ones that were already here. And so Christine, I think, is a very iconic one sheet. This one is going up into Killer One Sheet. Part of me wants to put it in framed on the wall, but I think there's cooler posters. But just the very simple image of a car with like some kind of a light fog and the headlights being there, like that gets across what Christine is. Like, this is an evil car. As silly as that concept might sound on paper, that movie does it brilliantly and very creepy and very effective. And I think the poster conveys all of that. So that is one of my favorites for sure. One that I threw on here because I always like this poster is Chopping Mall. And it's only going to go up in a cult favorite, but I just always liked it. I think it's like very B-movie 80s cheese in the best way, which is exactly what that movie is. But just having the robotic severed arm with the bag It doesn't exactly convey what the movie is because like you're not walking around there's not robots walking around with like fully functional arms. It's more like a security system, but it does kind of get across the tone of the movie and what you're in for, which is death by machines in a mall. So I like that one. Wanted to throw it in there. Now we have The Collector, and I was actually surprised pleasantly that the person that made this threw this poster on here, and I love this poster. To me, this is a killer one sheet. Like this is kind of a more modern horror film that even though there's a lot of people that we talk to, most people that have seen The Collector that really like it, it still feels like it's underappreciated, like it's undervalued and underrated some way. But I just really like this poster. All it shows is like this guy's about to go into this house and fuck shit up. And that's what the movie is. And I love the look of The Collector. It's very simple. It's very basic, but like in a very iconic way. It's one of my favorite designs for like a new quote unquote horror icon that we've had in the last couple of decades. So I really enjoy that poster. That is a one of my favorites. Now we've got The Conjuring. Now, there's a lot of different posters for The Conjuring. This is the most popular one. This is the one that's typically on the Blu-ray and everything. This is the one that I saw everywhere. But there's ones that have come out after the film where it shows the scene where the witch is sitting in the rocking chair and Abigail is sitting on her lap looking like directly into the person that's looking at the poster. That's a cooler poster. But this is the one that is like the original one sheet. And it's just the tree with the noose. And it's okay. I'm going to throw it into rough draft. I'm not too fond of it, to be honest with you. Like, to me, like, it just shows, like, okay, maybe visually it's giving you a bit of the tone of the movie, but I don't really know what you're supposed to convey from this poster. So it's almost minimalist in a way where I feel like it needs more. Now we have The Crazies, and this is a remake that I often forget about, and I often forget how good it is, but this is a badass poster. So this is one that I'm actually going to throw into Killer One Sheet. I think it's very cool, just showing somebody drag a bloody pitchfork. Gets across the tone of the film. When you pair it with the title of The Crazies, you get everything that you need. Okay, there's some crazy motherfuckers in some town. We're going to see what happens here. It doesn't quite convey all the plot, but it does its job as a movie poster, and I just really like that image. Now we've got Creepshow, and to this day, this is one of my horror blind spots. I still have not seen Creepshow or Creepshow 2, but I love this poster regardless. I think this is awesome. Like, I've never seen the film, but I would buy this and frame this. So framed on the wall is where we're going to be sticking Creepshow. I just think it's a very cool aesthetic here where, you know, you're buying a movie ticket and you're going to watch The Creepshow. So, I mean, that's a very basic bitch way to describe why I like the poster, but sometimes you don't need a whole lot of words. It's just really cool. Oh boy. Brian, did you make this fucking list because there's two Critters 2 posters? Get the fuck out of here. Critters 2. There was no way for me to delete duplicates, otherwise I would have deleted one of these, but you got this one where it's just a Crite holding a 2. We're going to throw that into rough draft. There's nothing cool about that. Like, it's simple, yes, but it feels lazy to me. Not enough to go into ink smudge, but it is lazy. And then you got this one, Critters 2, where you get the big ball of all the Crites. That one's a little bit cooler. We're going to stick that one into cult favorite. Again, that is not immediately a poster that, as a kid, I would look at that and go, I need to see this film, but I do like the more fun nature of it, especially if you're a fan of the first film. It's like, oh, they can turn into balls now? That's crazy, and that is one of the cooler kills of Critters 2, so I can dig it. And then we have the original Critters poster, which I'm not going to be as rough on as I was with Critters 2, because basically all they did was take the original poster and throw a 2 on it. There is something interesting about this one where it's just like, especially in the time where Gremlins came out, it's like, okay, so this is like a meaner Gremlins, which is exactly what Critters is trying to be. So I'll stick it right next to the other one. I do prefer the Critters 2 poster, to be honest with you, but not enough to jump them into different categories. Now we have one that is Cujo, and this one, you know, I've kind of gone back and forth on, but I think I'm going to throw this one in rough draft. And I'll tell you why. Like, this is a minimalist poster. This is one that's going for simplicity. It's just showing a house in the background in the distance. It's showing a white picket fence. And the title of the movie is written in like a blood splatter. But it never conveys to you that it's about a dog. You know, there's not a dog imagery in there. There's not a dog house. There's not a leash. There's not a collar or anything like that. And so for me, it's, again, a bit too minimalist. You need some other detail in there to tell people this is about a big fucking dog that's going to start roughing people up. So if it had just had like an extra little detail in there, it would be enough for me to put it in cult favorite. But to me, it's too basic. Now we have the original Dawn of the Dead. And to me, this is vintage in a very cool and stylistic way. So this one is going to go up into Killer One sheet. I just like the purple and the green on this. And I even like the artwork of the zombie. Like there's not a single zombie in this movie that looks like that, where it's just like a bald white head with some kind of like red scarring or red veins. But there's just something cool about it. There's something cool about like the way that the font is almost like a Star Wars opening crawl. And I just like the color palette of it all. Purple and green you don't often see together. So that one I really like as an old school 70s poster. Then we have the Dawn of the Dead remake poster, which I'm actually going to stick right next to this one. Maybe it's being colored by how much I love the remake, but I just think this is always a really cool image. It really does kind of embrace the dawn piece of the title, where you literally have the sun rising behind them and it's just the undead. And I even like the way that the image is kind of like a paint drip at the bottom of it. So to me, that is more of a simplistic design that also just gets across everything you need to know about the film, assuming you didn't already know what Dawn of the Dead was. Now we've got Dead Alive, also known as Brain Dead, a movie that I was so much of a fan of when I watched it for the first time last year. Instantly became one of my favorite zombie films of all time. But this poster, I got to be honest, like it's unique, it's memorable. I distinctly remember passing this movie many times at video stores and always wondering what the hell this was about. But that's also kind of the problem. You don't really know what it's about. It's just a skull in a chick's mouth. So it's goofy, it's campy, but it's missing some imagery in there for me. So I'm going to stick it into cult favorite because I like the goofiness of it. But yeah, there's something about that where I don't think it completely conveys the movie that you're in store for at all. Okay, Deep Red. I've actually never heard of this film, and I just offended somebody who loves Deep Red. But so this is just like a doll on a noose. I will be fair. I think my ignorance towards this film might be coloring this a little bit because I don't exactly know what the movie's about and if this poster is a really good representation of the film. Based just on the image in front of me, though, it looks like a very like vintage, just simplistic, weird images. Like a doll that's naked, we'll put a noose around its neck. That just tells you it's a creepy movie or a horror film. Not crazy about it. I'm going to throw it in a rough draft. Should I see Deep Red? Is that like a cult classic that has escaped me? Let me know. The Descent. This is an awesome fucking poster. This is one that I would also frame and throw on the wall. I love how you can sometimes get really creative artists that can take a simplistic approach, but do something also like very creative and beautiful with it. So this is conveying so many things. It's conveying the cave. It's conveying the skull with the way that their bodies are arranged. It's conveying sisterhood. It's letting you know it's a cast of women. And there's just so much in this poster that I think is awesome and iconic. So not only a great movie, but I love that poster. Now we have the Nightmare on Elm Street films, which are a bit out of alphabetical order. I actually thought a lot of them were missing, so I added in a few of them, but most of them here were added. And I also want to make it clear, because we're not going to be looking at every single poster in some of these other big slasher franchises. I did not just include pretty much all of the Nightmare on Elm Street ones just because I'm a Freddy fan, because the Nightmare on Elm Street posters of any of the classic slasher franchises are all very much artwork. So I think it was worth showing every single one of these, not just because I'm a fan of the franchise. But we're starting off here with 4, and that's good because this is not one of my favorites. I think that 4 is okay. I'm actually going to stick it into rough draft. This is not one of my favorites. I do like the movie a lot, but this poster just has a weird aesthetic to me. I like the claws coming out of the ground. I like somewhat of the image of Freddy with like the, ghost claw taking part of his face or whatever. But the image of the girl in the middle always throws me off. It almost looks like Star Trek or something, like she's being beamed up into the nightmare world. So this is not one of my favorites of these classic one-sheets. Then we get the original Nightmare on Elm Street, one of the greatest movie posters of all time, bar none. Easily going up into framed on the wall. And in the past, I have had this poster framed on the wall proudly. Love this image. It gets across everything you need to know about this movie. It is so iconic. It's so creepy and beautiful at the same time. You got the Heather Langenkamp, Nancy character laying in bed, and then you got some kind of fucking weird demon with claws coming out from the pillow. I mean, it's perfect. That is a perfect movie poster. Now we have Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Not one of my favorite movies, but I do like this poster quite a bit. To me, it promises a much better movie than what we actually got. I'm going to stick this up in a cult favorite. I like the fact that you get a guy who's embracing a girl, and then he looks in the mirror and sees Freddy embracing the girl. Like, that tells you the plot of the movie right there. It's about a guy, his struggle with, like, his crush, his love with this girl. You can look into it even deeper if you want to get into some of the subtext that wasn't intended. But him looking in the mirror and seeing that he's becoming Freddy, I mean, that's the whole plot of the film, is Freddy's trying to come out of the real world through this character. So that is it's a really solid poster that does a lot with a little. Now we have another one of my favorites as far as the movies, and you got the Dream Warriors poster, and this is another one that I just love, and this one's going to go up in a killer one sheet. I don't think it's quite as iconic or as perfect as the original, but what I love about this one is that it conveys the tonal shift of the third film. You get Freddy imagery with his eyes and the hat and, of course, the claws, but you have all the Dream Warriors walking up the claws, and they all just look like a bunch of 80s badasses who are bringing the fight to Freddy. So that one is one of the better ones as far as just being a cool image, but also conveying what to expect from the movie. Another one where they're doing a lot with a little. Now we have the Dream Child, and as much as I do not like this movie, I really like this poster. So I'm actually going to stick it up in cult favorite as well. Actually, I prefer this one to Nightmare on Elm Street 2. I think it's a really cool image where, again, you're getting the classic Freddy imagery of some kind of a distorted look at his face and his hat as the centerpiece of the top. And then you have the claws, which is another one. It's just like a centerpiece in most of these sequel posters. And then you get the bubble with the really fucked up looking carriage or stroller here. And again, that promises a much better movie than what we got. Infinitely more so than 2, because 2 I actually think is solid and entertaining. 5 is, it's rough. But I just like the aesthetic. It's almost like a spiritual sequel to the Dream Warriors poster, but we're replacing the Dream Warriors with a baby. So maybe for others that would be a knock against it, like it's lazy, almost like you just photoshopped out the people and put the carriage in there. But I just like that image. I think it's cool. Now we have Freddy's Dead. And again, I promise this is not just because Freddy's Dead is my least favorite film of all time, but this poster sucks, okay? This poster is just like with the Amityville 3D. All it does is say, bitches, this is going to be in 3D. Come see it. So, I mean, I like it better than the Amityville one. There's a little bit more at play here. You get the bus at the bottom, which is a random image from this movie to include. I don't even like the title of Freddy's Dead. There's so much I don't like about this movie. It's not for me. Those of you that love it, I get it. Cool. I celebrate that. You're never going to change my mind. Freddy coming out of the movie screen in 3D. I mean, that just tells you this movie's a fucking gimmick. Now we have Wes Craven's New Nightmare. And this one's interesting because this is a minimalist poster at its heart. It really shows nothing. It says the title, and you get, of all of these posters, the smallest indication of Freddy Krueger, which is just his eyes. It conveys with the color and the darkness and the brightness of the poster, as well as just the look that he's giving, that this might be a little bit of a meaner Freddy, which is part of what they're trying to convey with the design. But it's not my favorite. I'm actually going to stick it up into, I'm going to stick it in cult favorite, because I do think that it's minimalist in a way where it does, like, it kind of has a cool appeal to being minimalist, but I don't know. There's just, there's so many cooler images from that movie where you could do a badass poster that throws back to the original or the way that these poster arts used to be, that one, it never really hits for me. So I almost feel like it should be in rough draft to an extent, but I think it's better than all the posters in rough draft. So we're going to stick it there. Now we have the remake Nightmare on Elm Street. Since I included all the others, I decided to include this one. And, you know, this one's okay. I'm going to stick it into rough draft just because it feels like, with so many decades removed, especially in comparison to all the other Nightmare on Elm Street posters, which are so artistically driven, this is just a picture of Freddy. It's just like, hey, Freddy's back. I mean, there's even other images they could have had where it's like the boiler room and you just see like his silhouette as he's bleeding in. Like, there's other, you know, more creative ways you could have conveyed that Freddy's back besides just having Jackie Earle Haley do this. So Not one of my favorites. Now we've reached Evil Dead, and to be honest, I probably could have included more Evil Dead posters, but the only one that I added was Evil Dead 2. That was one that wasn't already put on here. This is for the Fede Alvarez film, and I think this one is a cult favorite. To be honest, it's funny. I've talked about it before where this Evil Dead film specifically is one of the only times where I can remember myself having a negative experience with a movie when I first saw it, and then revisiting it later on and going, holy shit, I love this movie. Like, I'd never really have big swings in either direction like that. But I think this poster is responsible for that because every piece of artwork you could find for this movie, I even have a shirt that has this where it says the most terrifying film you will experience, you will ever experience. That set my expectations wrong for this film. I would not qualify Evil Dead as being in competition for the most terrifying or scariest film ever at all. Is it creepy? Is it intense? Yeah, sure. But it's not at all in the category of films that merit that type of marketing. And so when I walked into this, I was expecting that. And even though I got a badass Evil Dead movie, I was like, it wasn't scary. Sorry, not a fan. Then when I revisited the film on its own terms, loved it and have loved it ever since. It's one of my favorite horror films of all time. So that one is a poster I have a little bit more of a story, a little bit more connection to. But I do think the image is awesome. Showing her walk away, looking disheveled, and having that text in the font that it is a cool poster. Evil Dead 2. This one is a killer one sheet. And I'm actually one of those rare weirdos that doesn't love Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn. In fact, like, I like it, so I'm not saying it's like a bad movie. It's actually my least favorite of the Evil Dead films, maybe save for Evil Dead Rise. I kind of go back and forth with those. But that poster image is awesome. I mean, just showing a skull with human eyes, that tells you everything about the tone of the movie. Is like, this is going to be fun. This is going to be wild. This is going to be out there. So it's simplistic, but it gets the tone across. And I just like those types of posters. And that image is just iconic. I remember passing that VHS all the time. But my favorite of the Evil Dead posters is the original. And to me, this one is framed on the wall worthy. I love that image of the girl coming out of the ground. I mean, I've gotten a variation. My buddy Woody, who does a lot of my graphic design, especially early on in my channel, took my love of this poster, and like, it's one of my main channel arts is swapping out that girl with me. And so that's how much I love it. I think it's just a badass image, you know, coming out of the ground, reaching for the sky, and there's a fucking undead arm like, bitch, get back down here. So I love that poster artwork. It's one of my favorites. I don't know why we have two Exorcists on here, especially with the same image. One of them's just got a little bit more of a vintage text crawl thing at the bottom. There's not a huge difference between them, but I will say that since I have both here, I don't think it's unfair to throw the one that's less aesthetically pleasing into rough draft, because I just would never want that version of the poster. I know that, again, there's some vintage people that would love that just for the classic appeal of it. But this poster art of The Exorcist, I think, is cult favorite as far as me. I mean, it's simplistic. All it shows is the guy, the exorcist, you know, showing up with the hat, with the briefcase, and you got this glow of the street lamp. But I don't know. That also leans into one of those posters that I don't think fully conveys much about the movie. It's kind of an iconic image in the film, and so I get why that became the main artwork for it. But I don't know. It's just not. If I remove everything that I know about The Exorcist and I pass that, I'm not going, oh my God, I got to see what that movie is. Now we have Final Destination. Final Destination's a cool one. You know, it's not, there's actually variations of this poster. There's some where like half of their face is actually like bled into being a skull, which I actually would like a little bit more. But this one, it's kind of that 2000 style where it's just, let's throw all the pretty people that we hired to be in this movie on the poster, and then we throw a skull on top. It's pretty basic. So I'm actually going to throw this one in a rough draft. That was kind of a trend. It's still a trend in a lot of posters where I don't really think that makes for cool posters. All it does is advertise the actors. It's very teenager driven. So just a personal taste thing. Now we got a couple Friday the 13th ones here. We got the original. I do think this is a cool image. I'm going to throw it up in a killer one sheet. I like the fact that you have just the basic silhouette of a killer with a bloody knife, and then inside of that you have the campground imagery. So I think it's a pretty cool one, even though I don't like that movie at all and always find myself arguing about it. That is a really cool image. On the other side of that, though, you have Friday the 13th Part 2 that was included on here. And this one I'm actually going to throw into rough draft because it takes away the cool part of the original Friday the 13th for me. It's like, let's just take away all the campground imagery and just have a basic silhouette. We'll swap it out for an axe and we'll put the poster art there. Like, that kind of conveys some of the laziness of the Friday the 13th franchise. Don't get me wrong, there's things to love about Friday the 13th. I'm not dogging on it, but I think we can all agree there's a bit of a lazy aspect to that franchise, and that poster clearly conveys that. Now, on the other side of that, my two favorite Friday the 13th films, I had to include these. These were the only other ones that I really wanted to discuss. You got Friday the 13th, the final chapter. I love this poster image. For me, it goes up in the killer one sheet right up there. I probably prefer the image of the original, if I'm being honest, just for an artwork sake. But I love the fact that this is just Jason's mask and a pool of blood with a dagger through it. It's basically telling you, without going the lazy route of Freddy's dead, it's saying, you know, of course, the final chapter kind of indicates this too, but it's saying this is the death of Jason. Of course, it wasn't, but that is a cool, very simplistic image to get Friday the 13th fans in theaters going, oh my God, I got to see how they kill this motherfucker. I got to see how they take him down. Now you got the remake Friday the 13th, and again, this is the one where I'm going to get into trouble with maybe being a little bit favoritism here, but I just love this image so much. To me, like, anytime I tried to do a Friday the 13th wallpaper or thumbnail, I often have a hard time not using this image because to me, this is just like the most classic embodiment of Jason Voorhees to me. To me, this one's framed on the wall. I love this image. If I was going to have any artwork of Jason Voorhees in my house, in my room, in my studio, I would frame that poster because to me, it's just, it's modern, of course, in the remake era where it's not quite as, you know, hand-drawn artwork as we see in some of the classic posters, but it's Jason fucking Voorhees sitting there ominously in the woods saying, bring it, bitch. I love it. And I love the look of Derek Mears' Jason. I know some people dog on it, but that was one that I really enjoy. So fuck it. If you want to tell me that I'm showing favoritism for that one, I'll give you that one. Of the 130, there's a little favoritism there, but I genuinely do love that poster. Speaking of posters that are among my favorites of all time, Fright Night is one of the coolest fucking posters of all time, framed on the wall. I love so much about this. You get so much from this poster. Not only is it unique, but it almost falsely conveys some kind of like a dreamlike supernatural quality to everything. But I love the imagery here. I love the house, just suburban house in the middle of the street. At night, you get the full moon up there, which kind of conveys creatures of the night, but there's also some werewolves that sneak into this movie somehow. And the look of that vampire image, which I think it's like a mix of Evil Ed as well as the look of Charlie's girlfriend. I'm forgetting her name. Oh, shame on me forgetting her name. But yeah, the big wide smile that she has when she turns into a vampire in the third act. It's like a mix of that imagery with this cloud thing, but that is a movie poster where I would pass that and go, I have to watch that fucking movie. I don't care what it's about. That is awesome. You have sold me. It might be the biggest piece of shit in the world, but the graphic artist, the person that you got to do this image, give that man a raise because that is awesome. Love Fright Night so much. Another one. Why do we have two Get Out posters? I don't know. But so we got two different ones here for Get Out. One of them's more traditional movie poster. One of them's a little bit more minimalist. I prefer the minimalist one with this one. So Get Out, I'm actually going to throw into cult favorite. I really enjoy that movie, by the way. But I like how you have the black and the white split there. And it just shows Daniel Kaluuya's face sitting here in this couch. And so or this chair. And you're like, what does that mean? The title, Get Out, simplistic in and of itself. The image, simplistic. But it conveys something that you have to find out. What is the answer? What is he screaming about? What is he scared of? I have to watch this movie and find out. So I like that one. This feels like something that somebody made in Photoshop. I'm not a big fan of this one. It's not terrible, but we're going to throw it into rough draft. This is just random images from the movie, random characters. And to me, it doesn't really convey much about the film. You got happy relationship. You got embracing white guy. You got Daniel Kaluuya staring, you got the scared face, and then you have him standing in the woods. Like, It's a very scattered, like unclear poster to me. Not a fan of that one. Ghosts of Mars. I mean, I'm not a fan of this movie, but I'm going to try not to let that convey things. To me, this looks like a straight to DVD movie that is doing the 2000s thing of like, let's just show the stars. Like, you get a little bit of the coolness with the hands there and the look of the little Mars demon cult or whatever the fuck it was. So it's not quite ink smudge, but I'm going to put it into rough draft. Not a great movie, so they don't have a lot to work with, but that poster, to me, I pass that and I think that movie's cheap. I would never believe that John Carpenter directed that movie based off of that promotional image. Now we have Goodnight Mommy. I've never seen this movie before either. I do know the premise of it, and I've seen this image multiple times. This is one that I'm going to throw it up in a cult favorite because I think there's something cool about the red hue that paints this poster. I don't really know if it conveys the plot very well. Can't comment on that, but I like kind of the vintage aesthetic of having it be like a white background with text and then just a very simple image of these two kids that are painted in red. It makes you think there's something sinister going on with them. And Goodnight Mommy as a title makes me think they're going to do something to hurt their mother. I don't know if that's actually what the plot of the movie is, but it intrigues me. It makes me go, okay, what's going on with these fucked up kids? Why are they going to say goodnight to mommy? I need to know. So it does entice me to watch the movie. Got to be honest. Ghoulies. I talked about this with, I think, the horror franchises tier list. I've actually never seen all of Ghoulies or Ghoulies 2. I've seen many different scenes. I know Ghoulies 2, Wasp did a song that ended up in the movie. So I've seen like the music video a bunch of times. But this poster is shitty. No pun intended. Just having a random cheap looking goblin coming out of the shitter. That doesn't entice me to watch this at all. So we're going to throw that one into ink smudge. I don't know how fun these movies are. I'm sure they have their fans or defenders. Maybe that conveys the tone of the movie and it's just goofy as fuck. But that image, I mean, just a little green goblin dude coming out of a toilet. There's nothing about that that appeals to me. So not a fan. Gremlins. This is a classic. We're going to throw this one up into killer one sheet. This is a really cool poster that, again, is very simple. It's very subtle. And there's a lot of imagery in Gremlins that you could do a much more enticing poster if you actually show like the green monstrous gremlins, the images that they turn into in the back half of the film. That will appeal more to horror fans. But Gremlins is one of those movies that's going for different crowds. It's going for the horror fans, but it's also going for families. It's kind of going for kids. It's kind of going for the holiday movie. And I think this poster appeals to all of those. I think there's a bit of a mystery. There's a bit of a wonder to this image. It's like, what is this cute cuddly thing in this box? But the way that it's painted in shadows makes you think it's something a little bit more ominous than just this cute little cuddly thing that's going to come out and we're all going to have fun. So I think that's a really, really great poster that not only sells the movie, but is appealing to many different pieces of the demographic they're going for. Now we got the Halloween franchise, and Lord knows you fuckers are going to riot if I don't put all three of these in framed on the wall. But let's see. Let's be honest here. Halloween 2, I think the image of that skull, I mean, come on, hello, I have it right here, is one of the coolest images in the entire Halloween franchise. It's one of the coolest openings, and it is one of my favorite posters. This one is actually framed on the wall for me. This is one that I love. I love the basic nature of the early Halloween posters where it's just painted in black and there's just a very simple Halloween imagery in the middle there. I even like the fact that it's got like the all new thing. It just makes me think of VHS where they used to just put shit like that on there. So there's something about that even appeals to me, but I love that poster. Now we have Halloween 3. This one is not quite framed on the wall, even though I love that movie. Actually, I'm wearing the shirt right here. So there you go. But this one, I love the image more, not so much the weird like pumpkin face that always looks like the hair of the guy from Street Fighter. That's what I always think of when I see this poster. I think his name was Guile. He's the guy that Cody Rhodes is playing in this movie that looks awful. But anyway, I always think of that for that piece of the poster, which kind of turns me off a little bit. But the image of just the red sky on Halloween night and the three different kids with the different masks going trick-or-treating and their silhouettes, I think is one of the most iconic Halloween images ever. So we're going to throw this up in a killer one sheet. I do love it. Not quite iconic enough for me to say that has to be on my wall, but it's damn close. It's damn close. Then we have the original. I mean, look, I'm not going to bullshit around. This is a framed on the wall. This is one of the best movie posters of all time. It conveys everything about the film. You got the Halloween aesthetic with the jack-o'-lantern. I love the way that it's drawn. You got the hand with the big-ass foreboding knife, which tells you it's a slasher film. And it's even one of those posters where people have continued to dissect it over time. Like, you see people that swear that the way that his hand is drawn is actually meant to mimic the Michael Myers face. And I think that people are seeing things that weren't intended, but there's enough there where I'm like, I kind of like that. If I found out the artist actually intended that, it wouldn't take a lot for me to believe that. I'd be like, okay, cool. Good little hidden detail in there. So it's even one of those posters that has like gotten cooler with the internet, where people are just really getting nerdy about shit like this. So iconic poster, the night he comes home, love it. Happy Death Day. I'm going to stick it into rough draft. I mean, like, it's minimalist. It conveys, okay, there's a birthday that it's going to be a slasher. That doesn't really sell the movie. It's not exactly what it is. It's much more of the time loop thing versus someone's trying to kill her on her birthday. But it is what it is. They chose that title, so they're just leaning into the pun that they created with the title. It's a solid poster. Hell House, LLC. I've actually never seen any of the Hell House movies. I hear a lot of great things about some of them. I hear really bad things about some of them, but I'm not really a found footage guy, so never really taken a dive into this one. Maybe one day I will. But as a poster, all this shows me is a Polaroid image of some people. I mean, the title is cool. I will give you that. Hell House, LLC would make me watch the movie more than this poster image, so I'm going to throw it into rough draft. Hellraiser, very cool, iconic image here. I'm actually going to throw this one up into cult favorite. I don't think there's quite the artistic edge that I tend to like for the ones that I put above this. This is just a picture of Pinhead, and Pinhead's doing all the heavy lifting. Dog shit franchise for the most part. Not quite as bad as some people like to make it out to be, but overall, you average them together, it's pretty bad. But Pinhead is one of the coolest, most iconic looking horror icons of all time. And that's one of the reasons why the franchise notoriously is so hated, because he is the most underutilized and misutilized horror icon of all time. So anyway, yeah, Pinhead's doing all the heavy lifting here. There is something mysterious about that box. What's going on with that? There's chains in there. It conveys what you're about to see in part of the movie. But even for that first film, it almost feels like false advertising, because, I mean, Pinhead's barely in it until halfway through the third act. So a lot of complicated feelings on Hellraiser, but it is a cool image. Now we have Hereditary. Great movie, unbelievable performance, not a great poster. There's nothing about that poster that really does much for me. It's almost like a little bit more of a simplistic version of let's just have the floating heads. You got the mom and the daughter there. I mean, I don't know. The title Hereditary tells you there's something going on with the bloodline or something, You've got Toni Collette looking a little bit ominous. Nothing else to say. Not a great poster, in my opinion. The Hills Have Eyes for the original. I did not include the remake in here. Maybe I should have. But The Hills Have Eyes. This is a really interesting vintage poster. To me, I'm going to stick it in cult favorite. The aesthetic of this poster, I don't think really sells this movie. This almost looks like a Planet of the Apes episode or something, with the clothing that the character there of, I believe it's Pluto, is wearing, the font. There's just something about it that's like, this is going to be like a sci-fi movie. And it's not that at all. I mean, it is a rough, like early Wes Craven, like almost Video Nasties level 70s horror film. So there's a bit of, I feel like, false advertising with the tone of this poster that doesn't quite work for me. But I do like the 70s aesthetic of it. That does a lot of the heavy lifting for me. Now we got House of a Thousand Corpses. Not a movie that I've ever been super fond of, but very cool title, very cool poster. I mean, Rob Zombie knows what the fuck he's doing with imagery most times, and this is the one that really looks like it's right out of his like albums. So we'll throw that up into cult favorite. I dig it. The Howling. This is another one. It's a very classic poster. I'm actually going to throw this one up into Killer One Sheet. I don't think this movie's anywhere near as good as something like An American Werewolf in London, but it's a solid movie, but I like the poster a lot better. I don't know exactly what they're tearing through, if that's skin, if that's supposed to be leather or some kind of a drape or whatever, but just the image of having werewolf claws and a female screaming. I think it's simplistic enough to get somewhat of the point across to the movie you're going to see. So that one's a pretty cool poster to me. I Know What You Did Last Summer. I mean, it's not going to be high, but is it worthy of ink smudge? Nah, for the time, I don't think so. I mean, it's not a great poster, but we're going to throw it into rough draft. It's, again, the 90s and 2000s thing of let's just throw the pretty people on the poster to sell the movie. And, like, you got a very dark, low opacity image of the fisherman on there, which isn't even the most iconic look for a slasher villain, ever has been. So, not a great poster. Insidious. This one I actually think is pretty awesome. We're going to throw this one up into Killer One Sheet. This is a film that I've softened on a bit. I still like it, but I'm not as crazy about it as I used to be. But I do really like this poster where it just shows the house. It shows the kid. I can't really tell from the image here, but sometimes it would have the IS like in his eye to show you there's something weird going on. That is it possession? Is it like somebody taking over his body? Is it like a dream-like thing? It kind of conveys all of that with the color palette and the shadows, and then the title Insidious. I mean, it's pretty simple, but it's pretty awesome. So I like that poster a lot. Now we have It Follows, and I really enjoyed this film. This is a very cool, iconic scene in the movie, but I don't feel like this poster really sells the premise of the film at all. It's just a random image from the movie with the title It Follows, and the title's doing all the heavy lifting. So much as I like the film, I'm going to throw this one into rough draft. I don't think it is the best poster. It's just showing them, being intimate in the back of a car. Cool. It doesn't really tell me enough. Now we have Invasion of the Body Snatchers. This is the remake from the 70s, which is a really good one. This one, I'm going to throw it into cult favorite because there's something cool about showing the people and then showing like almost like a distorted image of them down here. It kind of gets across the point, but this is also a film where, like, if I didn't know what the movie was, I would swear that this is like some kind of futuristic sci-fi thing. Like, this gives me somewhat of like a Dune vibe when I look at this poster. So cool enough. Not one of my favorites. In the Mouth of Madness, this one is just, I think it's kind of lazy, to be honest with you. There's really cool images from this movie. While it does get across that there's some kind of an evil story, not one of my favorites. We're going to throw it into rough draft. I think some of it is just that it's like the early 90s, like, computer technology where they're just like stretching faces and everything. There's a cool idea here of a book opening up and having people being sucked into a book, but there's just something kind of generic about the way that they did it. Now we have It. This is for the first Andy Muschietti film. Obviously, one of the coolest posters ever. So this one is going to go up into... I would actually frame this one. I would frame this one and put this one on the wall. Like, I just love the fact that you have Georgie, you got the imagery with the balloon, you've got the clown hand, and you only see a bit of Pennywise's face that's obscured by the plastic and the balloon. I think it's really cool. Now we have Jaws, another one, absolutely iconic poster, one of the greatest films of all time, and this one is worthy of being framed on the wall. I mean, it's one of the coolest posters ever. I mean, just showing somebody swimming and then showing this big fucking shark. There's nothing else you need to show. That tells you exactly what you're in store for with Jaws. And the poster is so iconic that they did not even bother trying to do anything different with any of the sequels. All they did was just add like a 2 and like change a little bit of the image of who's up top. But it's the same front-facing like jawline of Jaws in every single poster because it's just perfect. You can't do anything better than that. So I love that poster. One of my favorites. Now we have Jeepers Creepers. To me, this one's going to go in a cult favorite. This is one of my favorite horror films of all time. And there's things I like about this poster. I like the stitching. I like some of that shown in there. It kind of gives you a bit of an idea, some of the things that's going to be happening. I love the eye. It kind of, gives you a bit of foreshadowing for the ending of the film in a way. But there's cooler posters I've seen of this that people have made in retrospect that put the creeper, the monster, a little bit more front and center. There's not really enough about this poster that really, like, it's one of those ones where you would just pick it up because the title sounds cool. So not one of my favorites, but it's decent. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Not a movie that I've ever loved, but I really do like this poster. I'm actually going to throw it up in a killer one sheet. There's something cool and fun and vintage about it that I really like. You know, showing the clown hand and the world spinning. Like, that tells you tonally everything you need to know about this film. You don't need to know anything about the cotton candy or the ray guns or how the clowns look. It's just the crazy little grindhousey title, like drive-in movie title of Killer Clowns with the K, and then that goofy image. I think it's perfect. The Lost Boys. This one, despite being a film that often competes with another film I'm going to talk about for being my #1 favorite horror film of all time, not my favorite poster. We're going to stick it in a cult favorite because what I'll tell you this poster does exhibit is cool. It shows you that these characters are cool. This era of the 80s is cool. This is a stylish movie. Like, this is a fun movie. These are badasses. That's what it conveys. It doesn't say anything really about vampires to me. Even the title, The Lost Boys, like, you don't read that and immediately think, oh, it's a vampire film. That's a Peter Pan reference. And so aside from the log line at the top, sleep all day, party all night, never grow old, never die, it's fun to be a vampire. You would look at this as an image and never really know what this movie is. It's still cool. It's still iconic as fuck, but I've seen awesome posters for the Lost Boys that incorporate a lot more of that vampire imagery. So if I was going to frame a Lost Boys poster and put it on my wall, it wouldn't actually be this original one sheet. Malignant, not a great one. I'm actually going to stick this one in ink smudge because there's nothing conveyed in this poster. It's just the red face of a woman, and then the eye of Malignant goes down. Like, it almost looks like a needle in her eye. Like, this is way too minimalist. This doesn't convey anything about this movie. And to think of how many cool images they could have had to promote this film with how batshit of an idea it is, it's a very basic poster in a way that frustrates me. So, not a fan. Maniac, not one of my favorite films. Not one that I ever think I'll probably revisit, but that is an iconic poster. Not enough for me to say it's framed on the wall, but definitely going up into killer one sheet. I love the art direction of it. I love how gnarly it is. I mean, just the word maniac. And then you got a guy with a fucking knife and a severed head. Or is that just a scalp? I can't quite tell. I think it's just a scalp because in the movie he does scalp women. But that is just a cool vintage poster that I've seen parodied many times in cool ways. Like, there's a really badass Dexter poster out there that uses that image, and it shows him with like, it shows him with like rope, I think, and like plastic. It's an awesome poster. Iconic as fuck. Now you have Martyrs. This is another one I'm going to throw in ink smudge. This doesn't tell me anything. It just shows two women. That's all the poster shows. That's a fucked up movie. Like, I don't know exactly what image you could use that isn't going to be like censored, but that doesn't tell you anything about this film. And there's nothing about that poster that doesn't look different enough from a bunch of other films. All it tells you is there's two women in this movie that are probably going to be in danger, but like nothing. There's nothing in that poster. Midsummer. I'm going to throw it into rough draft. Not a big fan of the movie, but it's really just the poster. I mean, Florence Pugh crying with a flower crown. I mean, it doesn't really get across much of anything. I don't get a cult vibe from this. I don't know what's going on with the flower crown. Like, it almost feels like maybe she's a fairy or something like that. So I don't know. I don't think it's a great poster. There's a lot of really weird, trippy images from that movie that you could use. You could even just sell it with the image of the thing that they burn the character alive in, which is just like that triangular little house or something. Not a great poster, I don't think. Misery. This is one that is pretty classic. I'm going to throw it up into cult favorite just because I really like the colors of this one. I love the blue, like, ice aesthetic of it, showing the snowstorm. I love the red text that very much looks like a typewriter, having the house down in the bottom with the little window, which is conveys there's somebody awake in that house, which would be James Caan. Like, it borders on being too minimalist because there's not a lot you can get out of this poster, but I think there's enough creativity in the subtle details that makes it a little bit better of a poster than some of the ones in Rough Draft. So we're going to stick it there. My Bloody Valentine. This is one that I will throw in Rough Draft. This is for the original one. I mean, you get the idea that it's a miner and that there's a cave. You look at the title, you know they're doing some kind of a play on Valentine's Day. You know what you're in for with the title alone. I just don't think that's a very cool image. Like, you could just have a cave. Like, if you want to take an image of this, or a version of this poster, and just have like the white hall, the white cavity of this cave, like the glow or the light behind him, and just show the silhouette of the miner with his pickaxe, to me, that would be cooler than what we got here. That's a kind of an odd poster. Here's one that I just selfishly threw in for myself, and that is Night of the Demons 2. I didn't even include the first one, but this is one of two movie posters that, when I tell the story about walking through the horror section of a video store and always passing a movie and go, I need to see that movie because that poster is awesome, this is the one that I always think of, alongside one more that we're going to talk about a little bit later. So this is one that I actually think is a killer one sheet. I've actually never seen Night of the Demons 2. I have seen the first one. First one's okay. I wasn't in love with the first one enough to keep going down the rabbit hole of the franchise. But just the image of Angela with the skull lollipop is so fucking cool to me. It tells me everything I need to know. This chick is a demon. She looks gnarly as fuck. She's about to eat a skull. It's playful. It's crazy. It's very like 80s, early 90s. I don't know what year this came out, but right around the time when artwork for movies started to have a bit of a shift towards the floating heads. There's just something I love about that poster. Night of the Living Dead. This one I'm going to throw into cult favorite. I don't think it's nearly as cool as Dawn of the Dead. I mean, it's a much older one. That's a poster from the 60s. But, you know, the black and white, the green font, all that's pretty cool. But the images, though they are kind of more ghouls in Night of the Living Dead versus what we kind of know to be zombies from Dawn of the Dead onward. Yeah, I don't know. There's something like Twilight Zone episode about that poster that doesn't quite convey the movie to me. So, iconic, very important film. But I think Dawn of the Dead, just stylistically, is more my style. Paranormal Activity. You know, I'm not a fan, but I'll throw it into cult favorite because I do think that poster kind of, just like with Blair Witch Project, it gets the point across. You know, you're going to be watching like a still camera with people in their house when Paranormal Activity happens. Like, there's not really an image from that movie that you could use that's more of a conveying of what you're going to see than what they used here. So as much as I think that the movie itself is pretty basic, I don't really get a whole lot of appeal out of it. But so there's not much to pull from. I think the poster is a good representation of the film. Pet Sematary. This one's going up into killer one sheet. I love this poster. Now, there are a couple different variations, but that is the original one sheet, and you get a lot from this. You have Pascal as kind of the main focus of it, a guy who is clearly undead. It kind of gets that zombie, that ghoul type of thing across. And then in the bottom, where it's almost like torn, like his picture was taken off, underneath all of that, you get the Micmac burial ground. And I believe church is in there somewhere. I can't really tell with the smaller image, but it shows some animals. So to me, that is a very intriguing poster. It's like, okay, the title of Pet Sematary, clearly we're dealing with the dead here, but these aren't just animals. You got this guy here. What's going on? Are we bringing people back? Like, it kind of starts to get you thinking about what the plot of the movie could be, and you start to uncover a bit of what's going on, and it makes you want to watch it, which is what a poster should do. Planet Terror, this one's cool as fuck. I'm going to throw it in killer one sheet. Like, it's not one of my favorite movies. It does the job. It does what it's supposed to do. But that's just a cool fucking image where you have I almost said Scarlett Johansson. Wrong. You have Rose McGowan, her character standing there, and it's just it's a hot chick with a machine gun as a leg. That's it. That's all you need to know. Like, how do you not want to click play on that movie seeing that? It tells you the tone. It tells you it's ridiculous. So yeah, I think it's just a badass image. I mean, she's the star of the show in that movie. That is the whole appeal, is the woman who's tearing through all these zombies with the machine gun and the grenade launcher on her leg. Fuck yeah. Poltergeist. This is not cool enough to be framed on the wall, but this to me is the perfect representation of a minimalist, more subtle poster. So it's going up into killer one sheet. It's just that iconic scene of Carol Ann with her hand on the TV, and it's just static. And you get the title Poltergeist. You already know what that means. There's some kind of a haunting. There's some kind of a spirit. That is a perfect, simple poster. That there's no other image you need to show from Poltergeist. Even when the remake used the image of the clown, It's like that doesn't convey this movie at all. Like I know that's an iconic moment from the original and you're trying to capitalize on that. You're not going to get better than Carol Ann just with the static and the glow of the TV with her hands there. Perfect poster. Prince of Darkness, another John Carpenter one. This one, not a fan. I think it's maybe a little bit more enticing than In the Mouth of Madness, but this is a weird poster. Again, where it's like that early version of graphic design where it's like, let's just stretch images, but not stretch it in a natural way. Stretch it in a way where it almost distorts the image in an unappealing way. Same thing here. A little bit more color, a little bit more of a visual aesthetic that appeals to me with just the green and everything like that, but a building with a scared face that's getting sucked into the building. I mean, that doesn't even convey anything about what this movie's about. So, not a favorite of mine. Now we have Psycho. Again, I mean, you try to judge fairly. I mean, this is a movie from the 60s. It was black and white. They weren't really going balls out trying to have like these 80s style, like crazy images. It's just the actors and, a bit of a broken glass aesthetic here. Like, I'll throw it in a cult favorite purely out of respect for the time period. You know, I'm not going to hold Psycho, and it's right there with Night of the Living Dead, so that's fair. I'm not going to hold Psycho to the standards of how did you not get an image as cool as some of these other posters that came 20, 30 years later. But I just don't know if that poster really conveys what the movie is. Just the title. The title's doing all the heavy lifting yet again. The Purge. The Purge I actually think is a cool poster. It doesn't necessarily represent the franchise as much as this first film, but I do think that it's a movie that when you put The Purge and you have that mask there, I'm like, I want to see that. I don't know if it's a slasher film. I don't know if it's a stalker film. I don't know what's going on, but that's a cool mask. So as simple as that, we'll throw it in a cult favorite. Why do we have 2 for Raw? Okay, now I'm thinking that CP, Charles, you're the one that did this fucking list. What? Who the hell is trapping me into talking about all of my Autop Stream cohort's favorite movies that I don't care for? Raw, rough draft. I mean, it's a woman with a bloody nose. I mean, is it's simplistic? Sure. Does it convey anything about the film? Not really. And this one, even though it says grave, it's the same thing. I'm sticking it right next to it. I don't know where it's titled grave. But yeah, those are 2 I did not include for the record, and I couldn't delete any of them. But those posters don't convey cannibalism or, you know, coming of age, anything that's actually an actual piece of this film. Reanimator, fuck yes, all the way up to Framed on the Wall. I love this poster so much. It is so weird and wacky and crazy. It almost looks like a comic book cover, but I just love everything that it shows you. You got the main character there. You got the whole syringe. He's an evil scientist or like a mad scientist. You got the severed head with the eyes open, and it shows everything you need to know about this film, and it's just so fucking fun and cool. I love that poster. Ready or Not. Ready or Not, this is the first time I'm actually going to say this in this video. It's a bit too busy. So I'm going to throw it in a cult favorite because I think it's a solid poster. I think it conveys the movie. It conveys that you got this badass bride who's going to be, you know, fighting a bunch of people that look like maybe some cultists, but there's way too much going on in this poster, especially like the smaller you make it, you can't make out what the hell's going on. It's just, you kind of get the Samara Weaving there in the poster or the title of the film. So it's one of the only times I think in this video I'm going to say that where they tried to shove too much shit into one poster. Now we have Wreck. I mean, it's a pretty simplistic one, but I'm going to throw it into rough draft because what is that? I mean, it's like a very dark image maybe of somebody's face off to the side. All that tells me is this is going to be found footage. That's the only thing I get from this poster, and that's just because of the title. It's like, okay, this is going to be a found footage film. I don't know what the fuck else it's going to be. Not enough. Not enough for me. Return of the Living Dead. This is an iconic poster. It's going to go up into Killer One Sheet. Very cool. And this just totally conveys the punk aesthetic of the movie. It conveys the music. It conveys the type of characters. It tells you it's a zombie film, but very clearly going to be more fun, where you got the zombie spray painting Return of the Living Dead, which also kind of hints that they have a little bit more sentience than the zombies from the Romero films, which, you know, is absolutely part of this film. Send more paramedics. So that's a really cool, iconic poster. I'm not as crazy about Return of the Living Dead as some of my friends, but I do love that poster. Now, a poster that I actually love a bit more than Return of the Living Dead 1. This is right there with Night of the Demons 2. We have Return of the Living Dead 3. This is the other. This is the one that I remember the most, even more than Night of the Demons 2, of a poster that's going up in a Killer One sheet that I always pass, and I was like, that chick looks fucking badass. I don't know what's going on in this film, but I should watch it. And I didn't even watch this movie until I was in my early 20s. It was on like Cinemax or something like that. And it's not a great movie. It's very low budget. It almost has like a TV movie quality to especially the music. But it is fun. I enjoy it. And the way that Julie looks as she progresses through the film and has to do things to like cause herself pain to try to dull the hunger is so awesome. It's a lot more racy and a lot more revealing in the movie itself than this poster conveys, but she's just a badass. To me, like, for a movie that's definitely not celebrated at all by the masses, she is one of the coolest undead characters of all time. So I love that poster. Now we have two different versions of the ring. I'm not crazy about either one of them, to be honest with you. One of them is super minimalist, where it's just a ring with the words "the ring." I'm going to throw that into rough draft. That does nothing for me. This one is a little bit better. I'll throw it in a cult favorite because at least you get some things. I mean, you got the main character screaming, you got the title, you got the woods, you got the well. The well is a cool enough and ominous enough image there to entice me to want to check out what this movie is. It's like, what is it? What's going on in that well? What's in there? What's coming out of it? So that one's a little bit better. Now we have Rosemary's Baby, another very classic one. I'll throw it into cult favorite. I mean, it gets the point across. You got this ominous looking hill. You have the carriage there, the stroller, and you have Rosemary, a picture of her. It's very vintage. I like the green aesthetic to it. It's a very classic one-sheet style poster where there's not even really any words there. It's just an image. Rosemary's Baby. What the fuck is going on with this baby? I got to find out. So, pretty solid one. Saw. I remember seeing this poster everywhere in 2004. This was a really interesting cover for a movie where it was almost like the first movie poster or movie box art in a while where it's like actually pretty graphic. Like, it doesn't actually show the cuts, but you can tell these are severed limbs. And so there was something where it's like, okay, severed limbs. The title is Saw. Somebody's getting fucked up in this movie. I got to check out what this is. So this is a really solid one. I'm going to throw this one up into a cult favorite. Scanners. I threw this one on here as like an additional little Cronenberg one. You got Ironside, who is like maybe the main character, but definitely the villain of the movie, and just showing that there's something wild going on. It really is an image from the climax of the film. So aside from showing the dude's head explode, which you can't put on a poster and convey right, I think it's a pretty cool image. It makes you like the title Scanners is very intriguing. I don't really necessarily think it makes people go immediately to like telekinesis and mind reading and things like that, or mind powers, but just the title of Scanners, I like it. There's something about it where I'm like, that sounds like an evil robot or some shit like that. I don't know. But I like the title with that image quite a bit, and I'm going to throw it up in a cult favorite. It's a movie that blows its wad very early, and a lot of the things in the middle I don't think are nearly as interesting, but I like the poster. Now we have Scream. I got to be honest with you. Like, I love the movie, but this poster never been a favorite of mine. I'm going to throw it into rough draft. All it is a black and white girl. Again, minimalist, but too much. There's nothing here. On the flip side of that, the only other Scream poster I wanted to include, because I've always thought this was badass, is Scream 4. And this one I'm going up in a Killer One sheet. I love the way that they take the ghost face mask and bleed it into a knife. I think it was so cool. That was an image where it doesn't tell me anything about the movie. It doesn't tell you don't have any of the floating heads, which is what Scream 2 and Scream 3 were in their posters, was just like Nev Campbell and Jada Pinkett and everybody like that. That's all they added. And then Scream 4 just washed all that away and said, Ghostface is back, bitch. And we're, like, this knife is foreboding as hell. So I really like that poster. To me, that's the best Scream poster. Now we have Shocker. I mean, I'm going to throw it in a rough draft. I think that's a very silly poster. Like, it doesn't really convey much about the movie to me. It just shows a guy. I mean, I guess it does. I should take that back. I mean, it shows a guy getting the electric chair, and he's clearly a psycho, and that is what happens, but I don't know. There's something about the smile on the character's face in the poster feels like it's promising a more comedic film than what Shocker actually is. Now, Shocker's silly as shit, but it's not really comedic. It was trying to be the next, Freddy Krueger for Wes Craven and did not work at all, in my opinion. But yeah, it's cool enough. I almost feel like it should be in cult favorite because I don't dislike it, but yeah, I don't know. Tonally, the poster just doesn't work for me. Silent Hill, rough draft. As a Silent Hill fan, and I do like this movie. I think it's actually one of the better video game adaptations. That poster doesn't really convey much. It's just a girl without a mouth. Okay, what the fuck does that mean? Silence of the Lambs, absolute classic. This goes up in a killer one sheet. I mean, it doesn't say anything about Hannibal Lecter. It doesn't say anything about cannibalism. It doesn't say anything about Buffalo Bill, but it's just a image of Jodie Foster with that real like skull-like moth on her face. I don't know what the hell that means and how it relates to Silencing Lambs, but I want to watch that shit. So that is a very, very cool poster. One of the few posters too that like almost feels like an image that comes out of nowhere to represent the film, and yet it represents the film perfectly. So it's very creative. Sinister. This is a great one. This is a killer one sheet. I really like this image of the girl dragging across the wall with blood, and then you get a little bit of a ghoul there on the end. It's simplistic, but it tells you what you're in for. There's something about some kind of a monster or some kind of an entity that has to do with kids. That's all you need to know. Figure out the rest when you watch the film. Suspiria, another one that is a killer one sheet. This is for the original one, the Dario Argento one. And there's something really beautiful about how horrific this poster is. I mean, it just shows a dancer that's, got this big blood pool behind her. And I love the font of the original Suspiria film. So that is a really classic, simple poster that I think holds up very well. Oh man, we have been talking about posters a lot. This is a much longer video than I thought it was going to be, but hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Smile. This is one that I threw on here because I really like this poster. This is one that I'm actually going to throw into cult favorite. Smile's a solid movie, but what I like about this is it conveys that somebody's smiling even in death. And so there's something really creepy and ominous about that. They're zipping her up and she's just stuck in a smile. You're like, what the fuck is going on? That sells the movie much better than just the basic title. Like the title in and of itself feels too simplistic where like even before I saw the film, I'm like, what is this? Is this like the Truth or Dare gimmick? Like what's going on? I don't think any of us expected Smile to be great. And Smile surprised most of us, and Smile 2 even more so. People seem to like that one even better. Taking a Deborah Logan, not one that I'm super crazy about. I mean, it just shows a woman's face painted in red. What does that mean? What is this movie about? Deborah Logan doesn't even look creepy in that picture, so not a great picture. Not a great poster. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I'm actually going to throw this one up in a killer one sheet, and I'll tell you why. This is very much riffing on Breakfast Club, and to me, that perfectly conveys what this sequel is going to be. Nobody expected that the sequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was going to be so campy and silly and comedic and ridiculous. But when you look at this poster, it tells you what you're in for. It doesn't pretend to be like a straight up, vintage grainy, gritty ass horror film like the original is. It's like this one's gonna be fucking crazy and silly, so strap in. And so I really do like the poster for that. I mean, just the fact that they're just sitting there like a boy band. 4 fucking cannibals, grandpa included, just sitting there, and Leatherface like, yeah. There's something silly about the way that they did that I thought was really creative. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this is one of the coolest, most iconic posters of all time. I'm a fan of the remake above the original, and half of you just unsubscribed like you always do. But that is one of the coolest posters of all time. Who will survive and what will be left of them? One of the best log lines of a movie, or taglines, I guess. Maybe I'm fucking that up. I keep saying log line. One of the best taglines for a poster, and just the image of Leatherface and that little archway there and the woman on the hook. It's perfect. I mean, it tells you everything. It tells you everything you need to know and see about that film. And I didn't like the film Scream 7, but there was a Scream 7 poster that was made in the style of this Texas Chainsaw poster that I actually got. I don't know if I'll ever hang it up, but I'm like, that poster is so much cooler than the movie. So I need to have it. Now we have the Texas Chainsaw remake. Decent poster. Nothing really crazy about it. I'm actually going to stick it in rough draft. I think that there's something kind of cool about not really showing much, but if you don't already know what Texas Chainsaw Massacre is and you don't know that that is Leatherface being obscured, that poster doesn't really tell you much. It's just like, what am I looking at there? I mean, you can kind of, I could see some people not even really making out that that's a face. They're like, what's going on? So, love the movie. Not my favorite poster. The Fly, one of the best, framed on the wall. That is just like with Alien. In fact, they're very aesthetically similar. You just have some kind of a pod there. You have a human hand, and then you have an insect leg. Perfection. No notes. 10 out of 10. No notes. The Omen remake. This one's going into rough draft. Minimalist, simple, subtle, boring. The main focus of this poster is that whole gimmick of them releasing this on 6/6/2006. That's the only thing that's even mildly clever about what's going on. I mean, it's just the kid with the cross. I like the version of the original vintage poster much better, which we have right here, which is going up in a Killer One sheet, where you have the boy, you have the jackal as the shadow that is being cast, not the upside down cross. I like how old school it is. I mean, The Omen is one of, if not my favorite horror film from the 70s. And that is just such a classic, simple version of a poster that conveys everything. You have two people that you presume are a couple. You have a child and something evil going on with the child. Perfect. The Shining. This might ruffle some feathers. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the movie The Shining, but this poster sucks. And this is the image that you will see on most advertisements for this movie. Like, this is just a dog shit poster. It's the title, and it's some weird fucking doll baby face in the middle of the T. Like, what does that have to do with anything in The Shining? The only other poster image that you see everywhere, which is like Blu-ray art onward, is the classic image of Jack Nicholson with his face, sticking through the broken door, which even that, that's the most iconic moment from the movie. But even that's a moment that tells you nothing about the film. So I don't think there's any great poster of The Shining aside from custom artwork. So that poster, as much as I love the movie, never liked it. It's one of the worst. We are almost at the end, people, and now we are at The Strangers. And The Strangers is actually one of those rare accomplishments that I am going to throw up in the Killer One sheet that is literally just a still image from the movie. It is the most iconic scene from that first film, but that one still image of the most iconic scene absolutely conveys everything you need to know about the film. That there is a stranger in Liv Tyler's fucking house, and that is a creepy ass look for him to have with the little sack over his face. It's perfect. That is, if you're going to just take a still image from a film and make a poster, that is one of, if not maybe the best examples. Since they've had the image of the very end of the film where you got them strapped to the chairs and you got all three of the strangers looking at them, not only do I just despise spoilerific posters like that, but I don't even think that poster conveys much aside from just how cool the strangers look. That poster, even just going with The Shining, the one that I didn't show with the Jack Nicholson image, where it's that's the most iconic scene, but it doesn't tell you anything about the movie aside from Jack Nicholson's in it and he's crazy. The Strangers poster is one of the best examples of just taking a moment from the movie and making that the promotional art. So I really dig that one. Now we got The Thing. I mean, this one, there's no favoritism involved when I say this. This is one of the best horror movie posters of all time. This one goes up and framed on the wall, and I have had it framed on my wall in the past. I mean, it's just so fucking cool and simple. I mean, you just have a guy, clearly he's cold as shit, so it gets you the setting of the movie where he's just standing there, and there's just the shine in his face, which is a very artistic way to tell you there's something non-human there. There is something missing from the humanity of this humanoid looking thing here. That is not a person that we are looking at What does that mean? And the title, The Thing, just that title is like an art in and of itself of simplicity. The Thing. How more like nondescript could you be and yet perfectly convey what the movie is about and tantalize viewers to think, I got to figure out what the fuck the thing is. What is this thing? I love it. I love it. Now we have Tourist Trap. This one's pretty cool. I'll throw it up into Killer One Sheet. This is a movie that's kind of riffing on, well, not riffing on it, but it's like it's a different version of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, not quite as grindhousey, not quite as violent or as iconic, where you have a tourist trap, you got a guy with some weird fucking mask that's fucking with people. It's a cool little movie, but the poster is pretty cool, so I like that one. The Wicker Man. This one... It's funny how many posters in the 70s all looked like, or even the 60s maybe. When did The Wicker Man come out? 1975. Had to fact check myself. It's crazy how many horror posters from the 70s, whether it's The Wicker Man or Invasion of the Body Snatchers or The Hills Have Eyes, they all just give me the vibe of Planet of the Apes. I don't know if it's just the orange aesthetic of it, but I look at The Wicker Man and I'm like, that's Planet of the Apes. Oh, wait, no, it's not. So I'm going to throw this one into... I mean, it's The Wicker Man, and it just shows The Wicker Man. I'm going to throw it in a rough draft. I mean, I don't think there's anything cool about it. I mean, it's the ending of the movie, which I don't like being images on posters, as I just said, even though you don't exactly know what's going to happen. But it just, yeah, the title, The Wicker Man, is somewhat enticing, and then you just show an image of a wicker man. I'm not a fan. So I don't know how else to convey that. That one, I feel like there should be something else in that poster. And something about the color palette just throws me off. I swear, I think I'm about to watch a Planet of the Apes sequel. Unfriended. This one... This one's a little tricky. I don't think there's really anything cool or iconic about it, but it is a movie poster that very much conveys what the movie is, which is like the Screen Life, Zoom call horror film. I'll stick it into cult favorite. I'll give it just enough to throw it into cult favorite. It's not an iconic poster whatsoever, nor is it a film that I really feel a lot of people are super positive on, and I really dig that movie. For as much as I'm not a found footage guy, I really like the Screen Life movies and like the Windows browser type films, and I think that Unfriended and Unfriended 2 are really solid horror films. Unfriended, to me, I would almost describe as like a modern day take on slasher films, where I mean, you're literally having an entity that is slashing through all the characters through their Zoom calls in a way. It's not the cleanest way to describe it, but it's somewhere in there. There's something to that. Now we have The Witch. The Witch. Very simple poster, but one that I think conveys really well what's going on. I'm also going to stick that one into cult favorite. You got the title there. You got the image of Black Phillip. I mean, you know that there's something crazy going on. Like, to me, tonally, that really does represent the movie well. You think The Witch, you're like, that's a pretty simplistic title. Is it just going to be about the witch, or is this kind of like a bit of a bait and switch? What's going on with this goat? I don't know, but it tells you like period piece. It tells you everything like aesthetically that you're going to see in the movie without showing you a whole lot in that poster. So that one's a really solid one. Get a lot out of a little for that one. The last two here, we got Weapons. I think Weapons is an awesome poster. I'm actually going to throw this one up into Killer One Sheet. It's not just because I really like the film. That's a really cool image. I mean, the title Weapons, and then you got this classic like fog aesthetic in this, suburban neighborhood, and then a bunch of kids, almost like the Pied Piper running. And that's a very, at this point, even though it's only less than a year old, a very iconic image. I really like that poster. And then you got the whole tagline there that's kind of giving you the plot rundown of just like the initial mystery that you're going to have solved. A bunch of kids, 28 kids or whatever, walked out of their classroom at 2:17 in the morning and they were never seen again. This is their story. I got to watch that story. What the fuck happened to those kids? And the last one we have here is Ty West's X. And this is actually one that I'm going to throw up into Framed on the Wall, just enough to give us a second tier here. This is going to be a weird one to edit visually. But you have that poster, to me, is perfect because it conveys so much. I love the color of it, where it's like this off amber look. You have a very basic title in X, which tells you nothing about the film. And then you just see the sexy legs there that are also making the X, and you start to think like, huh, is this like an adult film X? And then you have that farmhouse in the background, and even the color of it tells you it's a horror film. Like, it's such a basic poster that doesn't really show a whole lot while showing you everything. It's a dirty slasher horror film. And even does that's like the whole point of the film. Like, I keep going back every time I talk about it, where you have the little nerdy director where he's like, I want to prove you can make a good dirty movie. I get that just from looking at the poster. So I love the movie, love the poster. To me, I would get that framed. Although people that didn't see the movie, they were like, what is that, like your favorite porn? What's going on here? So yeah, that is it, guys. That was a long video. I don't think I've ever realized I was going to talk about posters for an hour and 43 minutes. But this was fun. So let me know, what are some of your favorite horror movie posters of all time and why? What is it about it visually, aesthetically, stylistically that makes it your favorite? I don't expect everybody to do this massive tier list, so if you just let me know some of your favorite posters down below in the comments section, I think that would be a fun way to interact and share all of our different favorites. And conversely, I didn't have a whole lot of them here that belonged in the bottom tier, but are there any just absolutely awful, abysmal horror movie posters that you just despise that I did not include on this video? Let me know some of those that I might have missed out on also in the comment section below. And that's it for this one, guys. So if you enjoyed that, please click over here for all of my 2026 new release movie reviews. And I'm also going to put the playlist up here of all of my tier list rankings. There is a huge variety of them on there, a lot of different off the wall ideas, whether you like horror or other genres. So have fun checking all those out. Like, share, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any crazy ideas I have in the future. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.